Hello and welcome to It's All a Little Weird, the podcast where we discuss everything that's a little weird. Now, if this is the first time joining me on one of these podcasts, they are a little bit more free-flowing, they are a little bit more free-thinking. We are going to discuss a few bits and pieces, and they are, like I said, they're unedited, so I am going to waffle a little bit, I am going to ramble a little bit, but we are going to get to the bottom of what we're talking about. That's basically the crux of these podcasts. Now, today's podcast, we're going to be covering the mysterious noises from the sky. If you've ever heard of them, we're going to be discussing sky quakes, sky trumpets, and random noises heard around the world that come from the heavens above. Now, to give a little bit of context with these noises from the sky, I am going to interject a few videos that people have actually took, and they're what's the word? They are unexplainable. I mean, I've got notes in front of me here that try and give explanations, but we're going to get to that a little bit later. The mysterious noises from the sky are continuing to baffle people all over the world, as well as giving those who hear it sleepless nights. Now, these noises can be anything from loud blaring cracks in the sky to a hum that goes through the night, and people are suffering with these. Now, they sounding like a trumpet or a collection of brass section from an orchestra, a selection of videos shot like literally across the world have shown these strange going on, and they are very, very eerie. The sounds are eerie, and they've been continuously heard at different times, in the daytime, at the nighttime locations, for about 10 years. It's absolutely mind-boggling to a certain degree, but we're going to try and get to the bottom of it. According to UK's Metro, the newspaper here in the UK, NASA has a very mundane explanation for these noises. Apparently they're Earth's background noises, and we can't usually hear the resonation of them, but sometimes we do. That's the big thing. Sometimes we do. Even though NASA decided to go down the route of saying that it could be just random frequency noises from the Earth is a bit strange. Now, I, for one, I actually believe NASA. When NASA talk about a lot of things, I do believe what NASA say. NASA have got no reason to hide anything. I know that they've hidden things in the past, and we will probably discuss that sort of stuff on another podcast, but I do believe in what NASA says. But do I think that this is just the resonation of Earth? I kind of don't. Now, the problem with NASA's explanation in the Mail is it's a 14-year-old blog post on NASA's science page about Earth songs. So this is the tectonic plates that are shifting. This is the natural spin on the axis, creating noise, or even flowing through space at the thousands and thousands of miles an hour, which we do. Now, they're low-frequency radio emissions that are never normally audible to the naked ear to listen to them. They need to be converted into audible frequencies. So that's definitely not a good explanation for what's going on. But I do know that a couple of other sort of online media channels have put requests into NASA for an official comment on this, but the agency were unable to reply for the publications of a lot of these stories. Now, a lot of the sounds sound like something out of a Hollywood movie. They sound kaiju-esque. If you don't know what a kaiju is, it's a massive giant Godzilla. Is the easiest way to explain it. Something along the lines of like the War of the Worlds, the Close Encounters, all these kind of films and special effects sort of spring to mind when I start thinking about these sounds. And honestly, people are literally transfixed in the street. So when these people are hearing this, they're actually stopping. There's a video that I'm going to put in now, which a couple shot in Germany, where a child can be seen standing stock still as it occurs. And there's a couple of comments on there, but we'll discuss them after the video clip has played. in one of the comments, a writer by the name of Kimberly Wookie from British Columbia in Canada wrote on the YouTube video, "This is the second time I personally have heard these noises here in Terrace, BC, Canada. This is something that's being heard across the world. It's not something that's a select area. It's not military testing or anything like that. This is something that's actually happening across the world. And these can emanate from seemingly nowhere. They've absolutely captured the imagination of everyone, from governments to normal people. Like you or me, if you're listening to this, obviously you've got an interest in it. But they just haven't been heard from the surface. They've also been heard from giant solar balloons that were sent up 70,000 feet in the air to record sounds of the Earth's stratosphere. And the microphones actually picked up on some really unexpected sounds. Now, if you don't know, the stratosphere is the second layer of the Earth's atmosphere. It is lower level, containing the ozone layer that absorbs and scatters the sun's ultraviolet radiation. According to NASA, this is one of my notes, the thin, dry air of the stratosphere is where jet aircraft and weather balloons reach their maximum altitude, and the relatively calm atmospheric layer is rarely disturbed by turbulence. So obviously when they're flying their planes and their weather balloons through there, there's nothing to cause anything, any drag or anything like that. So any noises should be able to free flow through this atmospheric area. Daniel Bowman, a principal scientist at Sander National Laboratories in New Mexico, was inspired in graduate school to explore the soundscape of the stratosphere after being introduced to the low-frequency sounds that are generated by volcanoes, known as infrasound. The phenomenon is audible to the human ear. Now, this is another one of those sort of sound levels that could be resonating from the Earth. So if we've got a low rumbling from a volcano somewhere, this could be one of the further explanations, because this is all about the sort of convection of warm air leaving sound up into the sky and then reverbing down to ourselves. But obviously it just worked like an amplifier. It'd just be pushed up into the sky and then brought down onto us. Bowman and his friends had previously flown cameras on weather balloons to take pictures of the black sky above and the Earth far below, and successfully built their own solar balloon. He proposed attaching infrasound recorders to balloons to record the sound of volcanoes. But then he and his advisor, Jonathan Lee of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, realized that no one had tried to put microphones on stratospheric balloons for half a century. So we pivoted to exploring what his new platform could do. Bowman said, and I quote, "Lees is a professor of earth, marine and environmental sciences who researches seismology and volcanology. The balloons can take sensors twice as high as commercial jets can fly. And on our solar balloons, we have recorded surface and buried chemical explosions, thunder and ocean waves, colliding propeller aircraft, city sounds, suborbital rocket launchers, earthquakes, and maybe even freight trains and jet aircraft," Bowman said via an email. "We have also recorded sounds whose origin is unclear." So this is actually coming from some true scientists, that there is an origin of these noises that are just not clear. They can't actually tell where these noises are coming from. So obviously one of the questions that you've got to ask yourself is, what's really causing these noises? And according to the rumour debunking website Snopes, they say that the scientists point to natural causes, as they always do. It's kind of where the science lies, such as earthquakes, tidal waves, methane explosions. This is the methane explosion one's actually quite a big one, because one of the failed explanations is the fact that methane explosions under the sea are causing sky quakes or sky trumpets. Do I believe that sound travels like that? It comes through the water, up into the sky, and then rains down on us? I don't even know. And even shifting sand dunes as the possible reason for these auroral oddities. David Hill, a US geology survey scientist, said that small earthquakes below the surface can transmit sounds of the Earth's cracking crust. He also said that the emissions could come from meteors. Other theories include, and this is the big one, electrical power lines. Now, If you've ever stood next to an electrical plant, you can hear the slow buzz and the resonation of the power plant. So yeah, kind of grasp that idea. Electromagnetic radiation, high pressure gas lines, wireless communication devices. If I remember rightly, if you have a wireless communication device at the side of anything, it makes that beeping noise, doesn't it? Like that. It doesn't make a sound like a massive crash through the sky. Submarines, and save the best for last, the reverberating mating call of a male midshipman fish. Now, again, I'm going to post another video in between this. If you think that a fish can actually make that kind of noise, then I genuinely fail to believe that the human race is sane. I can quite understand that some of them will be deep and throaty, but I don't think it'd make the sound of a sky crashing, or the sound of Godzilla walking through Tokyo, crashing and screaming like it sounds like. Now, one of the things that really intrigues me about sky trumpets and these sky quakes and these noises is over the years, it's possibly been in the last 20 years since we've started hearing more and more about the sky quakes. So the sounds of crashing in the sky and everything else. Now, one thing that I'm going to cover in another video is Project Bluebeam, and if you're involved in this occulty kind of world and this conspiracy sort of world, you'll understand what Project Bluebeam is. But it's in the last sort of 20 years we've developed this knowledge of this crashing, scratching sound in the sky. But that's not true for all sounds. So sky trumpets I also class sort of slightly different as sky quakes, because in biblical events, when God gave the law on Mount Sinai, his presence was accompanied by a very loud trumpet blast, causing everyone in the camp to tremble. And that's Exodus 19:16. It's later intensified, and the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, verse 19. The rapture of the church will occur at the time when the trumpets will sound. The dead will be raised imperishable and will be changed. 1 Corinthians 15:52. Jesus said that at his second coming he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call. Now, we can go down the route of not believing what the Bible actually says, and it's not true or anything like that. But a lot of these sort of sky trumpet sounds have been going on for a lot of years, recorded in history over and over again. Now, the trumpets themselves, if we look at some of the videos that have been playing through the podcast today, then you'll hear that some of them do sound like a musical instrument. Some of them do sound possibly out of tune, but still sound somewhat musical. So what's not to say that some of these noises have been heard through recorded history? Now, although I'm a firm believer that the Bible was embellished, obviously, I don't believe people can turn water into wine or anything like that, but that's nothing against anyone else's religious beliefs or anything else. I'm not here to force my opinion on anyone, but they are built on somewhat kind of fact. Somewhere down the line, there is some kind of fact that's been embellished upon over the years, and sky trumpets are no different. These noises have been heard years and years and years and years and years, for years, and been repeatedly reported on. Now, what's very strange about that is the fact that sky quakes themselves have not been heard. Sky quakes are a relatively new sort of phenomenon. what we'll do now is we'll delve back into my notes for the explanations. So let's start with sky trumpets. One of them is a natural explanation. Some say that the sound of the results. Some say that the sounds are a result of solar plasma interacting with the Earth's magnetic field. Others theorize that the source of the sounds is the movement of tectonic plates or a shift in the Earth's north magnetic pole. If these sky trumpets or acoustic gravity waves are naturally caused, then the question is, why weren't the sounds being recorded or reported on long before March 2011? So it could be a lot of people think it's an extraterrestrial explanation. A lot of UFO enthusiasts are quick to point to the sky trumpets as a corroboration of their theories concerning aliens visiting our planets. This could also fall into a human explanation. Probably many of the sky trumpet videos on the internet, maybe most of them, are hoaxes, and I can see that side of it. It's not difficult for a prankster to tweak audio and create a video in which a few of his friends stand gawking at the sky. Other explanations of the sky trumpet videos, besides their all being hoaxes, are that the sounds have an industrial or military cause. One Canadian city has said that the so-called sky trumpets heard were nothing more than the sound of a city worker doing maintenance on a piece of heavy equipment. The internet is full of conspiracy theories concerning top-secret government projects called HARP and Project Bluebeam, there's the name again. Depending on whom one reads, these projects have to do with controlling the weather, killing people with microwaves, and or attempting to usher in a new world order via simulating the second coming of Christ. Now, I'm not a believer in that one, because obviously, before we delve into Project Bluebeam, obviously the idea behind that is we are abolishing all religion, so why would it be the second coming of Christ? The other one is the belief of the person, so it's a spiritual explanation. And then there are those who attach a spiritual significance to sky trumpets and look to the spiritual origin. Some see the sounds as demonically generated, believe that Satan's forces are attempting to frighten and confuse people. Others say that they're divine in origin, believing them as a warning that we are living in the last days. Now, no matter what people try and explain them at, this is where we sort of fall into the world of our conspiracy-minded brains. And I don't just mean conspiracy theory brain. I mean that these noises are just unexplainable. Now, we as a human being species are there to sort of delve into the bottom and try and find out what's actually going off with these individual noises. But we struggle when we can't explain them. Now, I, for one, I believe myself to be a man of reason and a man of science. So if a scientist came out and went, look, this is what it is, and we had the comment from the scientist earlier on, that yes, there are noises, yes, some of them can be explained, others can't. Now, why aren't we trying our hardest to get down to the bottom of what can't be explained? That's one thing that sort of bugbears in my brain. Why can't we get to the bottom of it? Why can't we find out what's actually happening? To get to the final and closing part of this podcast, I suppose it wouldn't be sort of right of me if I didn't try and explain what I think that they are. Now, obviously these have been heard around the world, and just the same as every unexplained phenomena that happens in the world, there are parts that we can't explain, and things that we can't explain yet. And that's the big thing. Now, if we were to be incredibly liberal and say that probably 60% of the videos that are posted to YouTube or the social medias are hoax, because they have to start somewhere, so somewhere it's got to be true in some kind of form or fashion. But if we take it down to probably about 60% of them being hoaxes, and this is just a guess off of the top of my head, it's not any scientific research or evidence that states otherwise. But if we say about 60% being hoaxes, what explains the 40%? Now, these noises to me, sound like crashes, sound like movement. I have read a couple of theories on the idea that there can be a lot of thunder without lightning or rain. And what's not to say that someone's microphone on their phone or on their camera is not great, so it's not picking up the audio crisp? It could be anything, and that's the big thing about it. And unfortunately, in the world that we live in, we need an explanation for everything, which makes us jump to conclusions. Until we find out what they actually are, what do you think they are? Let me know down in the comments, because I found this sort of situation all a little bit confusing, because there are unexplained noises. There's always going to be something that's not explained, and us as a human species will always try and find out what it is. And if we can't find out what it is, we jump to conclusions. And that's where the ideology of divine inspiration, extraterrestrial inspiration comes from, when really this could all break down to something that's quite natural, quite explainable, but we just don't have the technology to do it yet. I'd love to know what you think, so let me know down in the comments. For now, this has been the return of It's All a Little Weird, the podcast where we discuss and we blabber on about things that are a little bit weird. Please join me next month where we'll be discussing another weird topic. Thank you for watching. Please consider leaving a like and also subscribing to the channel for more. Until now, they are unexplained, but we could get to the bottom of it.